Missouri, okay, and I was kind of shocked that I was having issues with this particular airline. Normally it's so smooth sailing, easy going, everything's comfortable. I'm not going to name any names, but let's just call it Frontier, okay? And I know that you guys have all had good experience with Frontier. So Frontier, when you get on their plane, it's like you get in a steel 90-degree chair, right? You're upright and they strap it to the frame. It's like a lawn chair strapped to the frame of an airplane, okay? In Frontier, and we are on this small plane for like an hour. We're sitting on the runway because they won't let us go, but nobody knows when we can go. So everybody's getting a little restless. It's like hot in there. People are starting to have to pee, you're getting hungry. And the flight attendant, she's trying to do a good job and be nice and talk to people, answer questions. But she goes up to the intercom. And she gets on the intercom and she goes, "Okay, everybody, we don't know how long we're going to be here, but we're going to take a vote. Do you want to go back to the terminal, go to the bathroom, take a pee, get some food, or do you want to sit on the airplane?" And I'm like, is the flight attendant actually asking the people of the plane right now? I'm like, it was starting to get a little chaotic. So she goes, "Raise your hand if you want to go back to the terminal." And I'm like, I don't want to sit on this plane, so I'm raising my hand for that, but it was only like half the plane. And then the other half, she goes, "All right, raise your hand if you want to just sit here and wait it out and see what happens." And then the other half does that. And then everybody starts arguing with each other on this airplane. They start yelling at each other, like saying their reasons why they want to do whatever. And I'm like, this is chaos. Like, there is no order here. It was like insane. And I'm like, it seemed, anybody seen The Dark Knight? Show of hands. Remember the scene where they were on the boat and they're like trying to decide and vote if they should blow up the other boat? I'm like, this is what is happening in this airplane right now. We're voting for what we should do. I'm like, does the captain know that any of this is going on? Right? Like, we're just deciding what we're doing with this airplane. And it was just total chaos. There was no like leader. It was insane on this plane. I'm like, is this actually happening? And I'm like, it's Frontier. It actually kind of makes some sense. But we're on there and it's just total chaos. There's no one in charge. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at every argument, I'm like, this is a parable, right? This is like a story that I gotta remember. This is a learning lesson in leadership. There was so much chaos on this plane because there was nobody who would step up and be the leader, guys. And I'm like, I gotta remember this. I gotta remember this moment because when we talk about leadership at StuMo, I'm gonna tell this story on this Frontier flight. And guys, tonight what we're talking about is the need in life for good leadership. No matter where you're at, maybe you find yourself maybe you see yourself as like, man, I'm a leader, or maybe you don't think yourself as a leader, but no matter what, in your life, it is imperative that you grow in your leadership skills. Good leadership isn't just for corporations or for governments or for sports teams, but it's gonna benefit you in your future family, in your career, in your friend groups. Maybe you want to be an influencer on social media, right? You got to be a leader. Some say I'm a social media influencer. Some say that. You can catch me on TikTok. I got Louis Vuitton trying to hit me up for sponsorships. I'm like, we're an Under Armour school. I'm good. But no matter what you want to do in life, leadership is important. Leadership is about having influence. It's not about having a title or being the loudest person in the room or being the most liked person in the room. Leadership is about trust, and it's about building influence with people because leaders live for more than themselves. Leaders live for more than themselves. And tonight I want to give you guys 3 ways that you guys can grow in your leadership. And I want to give you 3 practicals as well. But real quick, you guys can stay seated, but talk to the people next to you for like 60 seconds and answer this question. Who are some of the most influential leaders in your life that you know personally or just in the world today that you see as good leaders? Go ahead and answer that. I'll bring us back here. Let's bring it back. Okay. Hey, throw out some good leaders. What's a name that came up?
My mother.
Yeah. Let's go, Mom. Yes. Beat that. Yup. Okay, let's go. Jane O'Dell. Yes, sir. Love it. Who else? Mike Easton.
No, Beck Easton.
Beck Easton. There you go. Let's go. Mike. Who else? One more.
Donald Trump.
Okay. I don't know. All righty. Well, guys, tonight we're kind of talking a little bit more about leadership, and this is kind of our normal rhythm for StuMo, but typically we're going to be talking about faith and how that applies to our life. And our first reason tonight, why leaders can grow and gain influence is by their character and their work ethic. So first reason how you can increase your influence is through your character and your work ethic. So character, it's who you are, right? Being the same person all the time when people are looking and when they're not. I think one misconception about leadership and being a leader is you're either born with it or you're not, right? This guy or this gal's got talent, right? They're just a natural, they're just born with it, right? And maybe there is some natural giftings in certain things in life, but everyone can grow as a leader, and you can grow in these two things. Character and work ethic have nothing to do with talent. So Coach Bill Belichick, who was with the New England Patriots, some consider him the greatest head coach in NFL history, won 6 championships with them. He has a quote that says, talent sets our floor. So like the worst we're gonna be is where our talent is. It sets our floor. But what sets our ceiling is our character. Talent sets the floor, but how far we go is our character. And people don't really want to follow somebody with sketchy character, but on the other hand, if you have great character, you will build trust with people. So this guy, Abe Lincoln, he's a great example of a high character leader. So he's an excellent example. He was known for kind of his quiet demeanor. Also, he was beloved for his humility, which is also a great quality of a leader. He earned himself the nickname Honest Abe. And of course, he also fought in the terrible thing against slavery, and it earned him the reputation of being one of the greatest leaders and presidents in American history, because he lived for more than just himself. The other aspect is hard work. So work ethic. And I would venture to say that it's almost impossible to be a great leader with a lot of influence if you are not a hardworking person. So Mark Cuban, he was in software and tech company. He sold his company at the right time and made a bunch of money. He owned the Dallas Mavericks. He's on Shark Tank. This is him kind of getting his start. It kind of reminds me of Mitch behind the sound booth over here, right? Getting his start here, and then he goes to Shark Tank. So Mitch, that's you. 20 years. There you go. So Mark Cuban, he's a billionaire. And one of the major reasons for his success is his work ethic. So here's a quote from a Business Insider article that I read. It said, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban didn't take a vacation for 7 years while starting his first business. At first glance, Cuban's amazing success looks like a stroke of luck. He sold his first company at the peak of its value and got into technology stocks at exactly the right time. Cuban writes on his blog that it took an incredible amount of work to benefit from his luck. When starting his first company, the now billionaire routinely stayed up until 2 a.m. reading about new software and went 7 years without a vacation. So hard work is imperative for being a good leader and moving forward in life. There's this idea in leadership of having a first generation mentality. A first generation mentality means that let's say for a first generation of anything that's starting, right? You're starting a business, you're starting a movement, whatever it is, you have to kind of wear all the hats. You have to make it happen. You have to be the go-getter that works hard, stays up late, and makes it all go. And then what can happen a lot of times is the people who follow them, the second and third generation, sometimes rides on the coattails of the work of the first generation, right? Everybody wants to eat, but nobody wants to grind, right? So keeping that first generation mentality, being willing to lock in and grind, and people will notice a work ethic and you'll gain influence. So the first way leaders can increase their influence is by their character and work ethic. And one quick practical that goes with this first point is just keep your commitments, right? Have high character. If you do what you say you're going to do, tell the truth and keep your commitments. And start doing hard things, right? It's good to build up a resistance for stress and a tolerance for work in our life. So do hard things like maybe it's working out, maybe it's learning about a new topic, reading a book, learning a new skill, doing cold plunges. Cold plunges are crazy because they're like, you hate it for 3 minutes, but it builds up your mental strength, right? Take risks, do hard things, and build up your work ethic. So that's number one. Second way leaders increase influence is by knowing their identity and their purpose in life. Knowing your identity and purpose in life. So who you believe that you are and why you were created has massive impacts
on your life, right? We have these narratives about ourselves and who we are, and sometimes they're positive, maybe sometimes they're conscious or subconscious, sometimes they're negative. We have these life experiences or things that people tell us that shape how we view ourselves. Sometimes it's good, sometimes we got some haters out there. And I had some haters back in the day, okay? I had some haters because back in the 90s, people weren't really into the drop, fade, burst mullet, like they are now, okay? So, and I had this in the 90s, okay? So check this thing out. Pretty sick, short up front, party in the back. So I was an early adopter of the drop, fade, burst mullet, and you know what? Then it came around in 2023 and 2024. Also, you think your Rameralls are sick. I had those back in the mid-90s. I'm dating myself. So yeah, but the thing about this is I'm on the early trend of another trend that's coming next year. Mark my words, 2025, okay? In the late 90s, I picked up on this as well. The bowl cut's coming back, okay? The bowl cut is coming back. Johnny, you're going to have a bowl cut. You're going to have a bowl cut. Who else? No. Bella? Bowl cut. It's coming. Mark my words, 2025. And I got more overalls, guys. I don't know if my parents just didn't dress me in anything else, but we're from Iowa. It's like, let's put some overalls on them. Give them, So mark my words, guys. There's haters out there. Bowl cut's coming back in 2025. But, maybe you've had some actual experiences with real haters in your life, right? Maybe you actually had people who have shaped the perception of how you view yourself because of what they told you. A lot of things that we believe about ourselves matter, right? And it impacts our God-given purpose on our life. And I can tell you firsthand that what you believe about God, what you believe about who God is and who you are and what he made you to do has massive impact on your life and the leader you will develop into. No matter what others have said about us, God is the one who made you, and what he says about you is what is true. Okay, and here's what he says about us and what he's done for us and his identity that he's given us. And this is one of my favorite sections of scripture in the whole Bible. It's in Ephesians 2, and God is talking about how we all have fallen short. We all have sinned. Like, we all have screwed up, right? None of us are perfect. And somebody's got to do something about this. And God has to do something for us. And in Ephesians 2, 8, 9, he says, God saved you by his grace when you believed. And you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so no one can boast about it. A lot of times we're trying to always get to the next goal, do the next thing, and when it comes to God and our relationship with him, he is the one who does the work. He's the one who initiates and saves us and forgives us, and he gives us a new identity. And he gets to this next verse, in verse 10, he talks about our identity and our purpose. So, he says, for we are God's masterpiece, right? There's identity right there. You were created by God. You are his masterpiece. He cares about you, and he made you. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus. When we put our faith in Jesus, he saves us, and he creates us anew so that, here's the purpose part, we can do the good things that he planned for us long ago. God has a plan for your life. He cares about you. He wants to forgive you. He wants to save you, and then he wants to put you in a life where you have purpose and give you this new identity. How many people know who this is? Yep. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. Who saw the Paris Olympics? Anybody watch it? Yeah. It was sick. Dude, when she runs, it's ridiculous. There's nobody that's even close to her. So she's 25 years old, and she's won 4 Olympic gold medals at this point already. She breaks her own world record every time she goes out there. So, I think she's done it 6 times, and she's always just breaking her old time. It's crazy. So she's very influential, obviously, in the Olympic world, the sports world, the track world. But she also is influential off the track, and she influences many millions of people that she's trying to help and tell her story. So she wrote a book called Far Beyond Gold, and she talks about the identity and purpose that she has in her life. So 4-time gold medal champion. She writes this in her Instagram, whatever you call it, post. Caption post, yeah. I promise I'm an influencer. So she writes this in the post as she's launching this book. And she says, You know that feeling of being held back by your fears or the desire to be perfect and constantly failing? I figured it was time to start writing all of this down. So I poured my heart out into a book about my faith journey and my experience fighting anxiety and perfectionism. You'll see how much my self-worth and identity have shifted in the process of finding that I can do nothing apart from God. His overwhelming grace, love, and truth shattered my pursuit of perfection and people-pleasing. And when she was interviewed about this book, she told a reporter, one more quote, "For a long time, my identity was in track and field." She told the Associated Press this summer, "But I realized that first and foremost, I am a child of God. It set me free to run the race God has set out for me to run. This means being in the Word, being in prayer, keeping that in the forefront, and allowing that to be what centers my mind and not the outside voices in the world." So Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, she knows her identity. She's found her identity with her faith and with her relationship with God and her purpose in life. It's not just crushing people on the track, but she wants to influence others and show them this relationship that she found with God, because she's living for more than herself, and leaders always live for more than themselves. So the second way you can increase your influence as a leader is by knowing your identity and your purpose. And the second practical today to go with this is take opportunities and risks to discover your identity and your purpose. Take opportunities that are provided to you, like you're doing tonight, right? Maybe it's something like asking yourself, thinking about, sometimes we don't ever stop, slow down, and just think, what is my purpose in life? What am I here for? What is my purpose? Sometimes it's good to just stop and reflect and think about that. Maybe it's sharing your life experiences with somebody that you trust, right? Maybe it's saying, here's the things that have shaped my life and the things that I believe about myself. What do you think about them, right? Maybe it's reading a book of the Bible for the first time or being in prayer to find out what God has for your life. Maybe it's going to our leadership study that you're going to hear more about at the end that we have tomorrow right here in the LSC at 4:30. We're going to dive into 3 different topics of leadership and just what the Bible has to say about those things. Maybe it's taking an opportunity like that. We have one opportunity coming up in January, and this is one you're going to hear about throughout the semester. We're going to show different videos, but it's called SMC, and it's StuMo's Winter Conference, okay? So SMC 2025, it's January 2nd through the 5th, and our theme for SMC this year, we have a theme every year, and it's actually influence. There's so many influences in our lives that influence how we think, how we live, and this year, we want to make influence our theme and just how we can live that out in our lives. So SMC is an awesome time. You'll hear more about it here at the end, but I'm pretty sure Jack Buell's going to get a bowl cut at SMC, so you're going to want to be there for that. But guys, I know somebody in the room who has taken these opportunities. He's taken opportunities to grow in his faith in college and also to develop and grow as a leader. And I want to hear kind of his story right now. So please help me welcome up Isaiah.
Hey guys, is this on? All right, my name is Isaiah Noble. I'm a third year here at CSU, and I'm also a member of Phi Delt. But kind of going off of what Matt was talking about with leadership and also faith, for me, I've grown a ton, not only in my faith, but also in my leadership my past 3 years here at CSU. And one of the biggest things that I've experienced is just the different various leadership skills that you can pick up from coming to these StuMo nights, or the leadership Bible study was super helpful for me in the past, and also doing the SMC was a really big one for me, and even StuMo's summer project called Kaleo. In those different things, I was able to learn different skills like leadership, or maybe communication skills, or even networking. For me, it was very hard to reach out to people my freshman year. I came to a StuMo night, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, look at all these amazing people in this room, and it was a great way just to connect and to bond with everybody. So I definitely highly encourage you all to take those risks, and like Matt said earlier, challenge yourselves and put yourself in a position where maybe you don't necessarily want to put yourself in a challenging situation, but I can promise you from my own experiences, definitely put yourself in those hard times, and you never know what doors could be open or what connections could be made from that. I've grown a ton in my leadership while here at CSU and while going to all these things, so definitely lean into it, grow in your faith, grow in your leadership, put yourself in positions to grow, and yeah.
Attaboy. Thank you. Okay, so our last way to grow in influence with leadership is by serving others. So we got character, work ethic, knowing your identity and purpose, and serving others. Okay, and this is one that I'm still working on, guys. Sometimes I do a good job and sometimes I don't. But to be honest, the sooner that we figure out that life is better lived for others, the sooner we are going to have a more content and full life. Living for ourselves can feel good right in the moment, right, early on, but it'll always leave us wanting more, needing more, being discontent, and it will kill your influence as a leader. If you're a selfish person, that's something we can grow in, right? And it will ultimately lead to more influence. The best leaders and people who are most happy and satisfied with life are those who can focus on others. And there's no better example than Jesus. Okay, Jesus, he's the man. If there's any leader in the history of the world worth following, it's Jesus. Okay, so here's what Mark 10:45 says. Even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. It's a crazy countercultural statement, right? Oftentimes, we're trying to figure out how we can serve ourselves, right? Get mine. How can I be comfortable? And Jesus is a true leader by serving. He's the perfect Son of God, right? He has everything he could ever want. He lives in heaven, and he decides to give that up, come down to us to show us who God is, and to serve. And to serve us, he served people by feeding hungry people. He washed his followers' feet. He healed sick people. He did many miracles and helped people. He gave his time and his resources away to people. He put others before himself, ultimately dying for them and dying for you and me here today. It's the ultimate sacrifice and the ultimate servant leader, and he lived for more than just himself. So if the Son of God, if Jesus Christ, the most famous figure in history, the Son of God, the greatest leader of all time, came to serve others, how much more should we serve others in our life? As a leader, he served, and it grew his influence, right? Because leaders live for more than just themselves. So to sum up what we got tonight, we got your 3 ways to increase your influence: growing your character and your work ethic, right? Keep your commitments, start doing hard things. Number 2, know your identity and your purpose. Take opportunities and risks to discover that purpose. And the number 3, big one, serving others. Do small acts of service. Look for ways to serve people. Look for ways to serve people in this room. Maybe it's your roommates, right? Everybody's got that roommate that can't wash the dishes, right? They leave the dishes out. We in college, we used to do a rule, like if you left the bacon pan out, we'd go and put it on the guy's bed in his sheets if we got tired of it. Don't do that. Okay, that's not serving others. Do the opposite of that. Maybe clean the kitchen for them, right? And see how that goes. Help somebody out. Help them out with class. Look for ways to serve people. Do what Jesus did and serve others, and see how it affects your life and your influence. Guys, my hope tonight is that you will want to grow as a leader and do some of these things. And from my personal experience, there's no better way to develop yourself as a leader and benefit others, those around you, than by following Jesus Christ. He's just the best. He's just the man. He's just the leader. He's just the top dog. And he's worth following, guys. So tonight, I just hope that you guys will consider letting him be your leader as you guys grow as leaders. So thanks. That's all I got tonight. Let's welcome up Tacey.